Okay, my friends. So you will remember that on guessing what was going to be moving from the Booker long list to the Booker short list, I got my prediction entirely wrong. But that has not prevented me from attempting to make a prediction on what I think will win when the prize is announced tomorrow. So here goes. This is where we are. We have 6 books on the shortlist. We have the 2 debuts. We have Elmet and History of Wolves. We have Mohsin Hamid's, 4th book, Exit West. We have 4321 by Paul Auster, Autumn by Ali Smith, and Lincoln in the Bardo by George Saunders. So my sense is that the awarding of the prize tomorrow has to come down to one of 3 books. I think 3 of these books are considerably more serious, more accomplished than the other 3. And I think given that the way the shortlist was shaped resulted in a large number of topical themes being present in all of the books, I don't think there is any one book that is particularly thematically more relevant that the judges would be likely to pick on that basis. So for my money, I think the 2 debuts they're great debuts. They are not as complex or as accomplished as some of the other books. Exit West, again, I've said elsewhere, I don't think is a good book at all. I think it is some ways a very interesting book. I think it has a very interesting idea in it, in its magic realism, but I don't think it's a good book. So my sense is that the prize tomorrow is between 4321, Autumn, and Lincoln and the Bardo. So if we take those 3, so Auster's is this absolutely enormous, magisterial is a fair word to describe it, book, 4 versions of a young man's life. It is extremely well written. It is technically very accomplished. I think it could have done with some more editing. I think it's considerably longer than it needs to be. And I also don't think it is that interesting. Its approach is novel. Taking the 4 different lives is an interesting thing to do, but the story of an artistic, precocious young man growing up in New York who turns out to be a writer has been done before. What Auster's done this time is to take 4 versions of it in a rather clever way, but I don't think that in itself is particularly exciting. Ali Smith's Autumn, I know I have different views on this from many people whose views I respect. It's an interesting book. The story of the elderly man and the young woman and their friendship from her childhood onwards, and her waiting at his bedside as he is dying is compelling. I found the politics in it strident and sort of undigested. I don't feel that it is a book that will last as anything other than a sort of expression of rage at the result of the Brexit referendum in the UK last year. And I found it structurally bitty, especially the 1960s element that feeds in at the end, which didn't really seem to me to relate very much to what went before. I didn't find it a sort of coherent whole. It'll be very interesting to see what Smith does as she produces the next 3 volumes in this quartet. So I believe there will be one which is winter and then spring and then summer, each published in the relevant time of year as and when they come. And it'll be interesting to see what that does. But for me, Autumn is not a successful book. Lincoln in the Bardo, I've just put up my video on that if you're interested, I think is an enormously successful book. It is complex, it is nuanced, it works structurally, it's beautifully written, it is an innovative way of writing a novel which hugely adds to the content of what is being said rather than distracting from it. It's like Solar Bones and Reservoir 13 in that respect. I think this is by far the best book on this shortlist. I mean, head and shoulders above the rest. Equally, it may well not win. It is, in a sense, it's less topical than the others. So, like Days Without End, like the Underground Railroad, it shares the American mid-19th century Civil War background, or just pre-Civil War background, but it is less explicit in its use of those as topical. It is less explicit in its exploration of race relations than either of those is. It therefore doesn't play as well to current concerns about race relations, current concerns about who owns what land, which of course also comes up in the refugee crisis through Exit West. So if what the judges are looking for is topicality, then they won't choose Lincoln in the Bardo. They may also reject it on grounds of readability, which I think would be a shame. It's a very unusual text. It's this sort of palimpsest of lots and lots of different voices and different types of writing and different types of thinking. And I've heard people say that makes it difficult to read. I didn't find it difficult to read, actually. I was so compelled by what it was saying and how it was saying it that I was very, very quickly drawn into its overpopulated text. But if what the judges want is ease of reading, then I think they're likely to go for something else. It's not clear to me, though, what that would be. Exit West has these extraordinarily long, complex sentences, which I found very, very hard to get on with. 4321, merely on grounds of its length, is hard to get on with, and I found it very, very hard to get into. I found the first third of it really felt painfully slow to me, and I have quite a high tolerance for books that feel painfully slow. And Autumn is not particularly straightforward to read. It also has a very innovative approach and structure and switching between different voices. So if we're looking for sort of more I hesitate to say populist, but more commercial ease of reading, then I think we do end up left with Elmet and History of Wolves, both of which are interesting books. Elmet has an interesting take on the effects of 1980s Thatcherism on the north of England and the effects of inequality on the UK now. But as I say, they're not as complex as novels. They're not as wide-ranging. They don't touch on as many themes and topics as the other books we have. So what I think will win is Auster's 4321, and I don't think that would be a travesty at all. I think it's in many ways a fabulous book. It is not my choice. My choice is Lincoln in the Bardo. I hope that is what the judges pick. But as we know, the judges and I have different priorities, which is entirely reasonable. We are different people. But I shall wait with bated breath to see what the decision is tomorrow. And then once it is out, I will let you know what I think of the decision, which will almost certainly be different from my views. But there we are. See you tomorrow.